of the year is the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill.
In 1999, Lauryn Hill did something no rapper had ever done before. She won Album of the Year at the Grammys, 5 awards, one night. She was just 23. The industry called her the future of music. 2 years later, she walked away from all of it. No second album, no clear explanation, and almost immediately, the narrative changed. She wasn't a genius anymore. She was difficult, unstable, crazy. So what actually happened between those two moments? And why does every version of this story seem to leave something out? Because if you look at her today, you'll hear a very different story. Late shows, cancelled performances, unpredictable behavior. That's the version most people remember. But that version only makes sense if you ignore everything that came before it. So before we get to the breakdown, we need to understand what she actually built. Before the Grammys, before the headlines, Lauryn Hill was already moving differently. At 18, she appears in Sister Act 2. Even in a small role, she stands out, not just as a singer, as a presence. Around the same time, she's part of a group forming in New Jersey. Wyclef Jean, Pras Michel, the Fugees. In 1996, they released The Score. It sells over 17 million copies. But what made it work is she wasn't just the group. It was her. She was writing, producing, rapping, singing. And even then, there was already tension building behind the scenes.
Ready or not, here I come, you can't hide.
Because success didn't stabilize the group. It exposed everything underneath it. Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean were in a relationship. At the same time, Wyclef was married. That situation didn't stay private. It started affecting the group. The trust, the direction, and depending on who you ask, this is where things really started to fracture. By the late 90s, the Fugees weren't functioning anymore. The group that introduced her to the world was already falling apart. But that wasn't the part the public focused on. Because right after that, August 1998, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. First week, over 400,000 copies. But numbers don't really explain what this album did. It wasn't just successful, it felt complete. Hip-hop, soul, reggae, all in one voice. Personal but controlled. Emotional but precise.
So that worked, you see.
February 1999, the Grammys. 5 awards, including Album of the Year. At 23, she becomes the first rapper to ever do it. And in that moment, the expectation becomes very clear. Do it again. But that's where the pressure starts, because success at that level doesn't give you space. It removes it.
Man, hold up. What? Lauryn Hill, baby.
At the exact moment she's being celebrated as a genius, that image starts getting questioned. Publicly. A group of musicians known as New Ark file a lawsuit. They claim they contributed significantly to the writing and production of the album, and that they weren't properly credited, not privately, in court. The case gets settled in 2001. But by then, the damage is already done. Because now there's a new question in the air. Was it really all hers? And once that question exists, it doesn't go away. If you've been following this channel, you've seen this pattern before. Different artists, same pressure points, and it never really ends the way you expect. Lauryn Hill appears on MTV Unplugged, but this isn't a comeback. There's no band, no production, no polish. Just her, a guitar, and something very different. She talks about identity, pressure, disconnection from the version of herself that people expected. And the reaction is immediate. Confusion, criticism. Some call it unfinished. Others call it a breakdown. But the real shift is this. She doesn't go back. She doesn't return to the version of Lauryn Hill that the industry understood. She steps away from it. And from that point on, two completely different narratives exist. One says she became unstable, difficult, unreliable. The other says she refused to keep operating in a system that no longer worked for her. Over time, the first version becomes louder. Late performances, cancelled shows, and in 2013, 3 months in federal prison for failing to file taxes on $2.3 million in income. That becomes the headline. But headlines are never the full story.
Who made these rules?
Who made these rules?
Hands up, let's go!
We're so confused.
Come on!
Because despite everything, the influence never disappeared. Not in headlines, not in charts, but in the way the music itself started to shift. What she created didn't stay in that moment. It became a reference point. The balance between rap and melody. Personal writing without losing structure. Vulnerability that still felt controlled. That blueprint didn't fade. It got absorbed. And once it did, it stopped being credited back to her. Lauryn Hill didn't disappear because she couldn't continue. That part doesn't hold up. She reached the top of the industry and then stepped outside of it. But once she did, the narrative around her was no longer hers to control. So the real question isn't why Lauryn Hill disappeared. It's this: did she walk away from the industry? Or did the industry decide what her story would be after she left? The archive stays open.